Hey, Ben Pearson from Bensbackwoods here. Today we're going to do a quick review of these Air Force extreme cold weather Mukluks. These are fantastic for keeping your feet warm in bitter cold temperatures. So stay tuned. So here we have the Air Force Mukluk. These are a canvas construction with a kind of a rubberized bottom here. I picked these up, I think, on eBay a couple years ago, I think for about 50 bucks. There's a close-up look of the model and what they're used for. These are extreme cold weather. So the idea on these is they are breathable canvas. You do not want these waterproofed, and this lets water vapor out of your foot system to keep you warm. So some of the principles of keeping your feet warm. The three major principles are: you need insulation. You do need more insulation under your feet in cold temperatures than on top of your feet. The other factor is keeping your feet dry. When you have moisture entering your boot system or in your insulation system, moisture transfers heat away from your body 25 times faster than air. A good example of this is regular muck boots. I use muck boots if I've got them sitting by the wood stove at night and they're dried out. I put those on with a couple pairs of wool socks, and I am good for 2 to 3 hours depending on the activity level, and then a chill will set in. And what's going on there is moisture from your feet, from activity, from the bottoms of your feet will sweat continuously. That little bit of moisture that enters your foot system now transfers that heat away from your feet and starts to chill you. So in dry cold conditions, and we're going to say dry cold conditions are going to be probably 20, maybe 25 degrees on the high end, 20 degrees Fahrenheit and colder. And in dry cold conditions, I would say when you step on the snow, it's squeaky. In these dry cold conditions, you do not need waterproof boots. You want the opposite. You want your feet to breathe freely. And canvas here, first tip is don't spray waterproof material. Don't spray any waterproofing on this canvas. You want this canvas to breathe. You want this canvas, actually it's a cotton, to absorb moisture from the inside of your feet and then wick it to the outside layer into the environment. So you've got insulation, more under your feet than on top of your feet. You've got number two on keep your feet warm is to keep moisture out of your sock system, foot system, what have you. And the third principle is you want a loose fit. You do not want tight fitting boots. When you're sizing up footwear, make sure you've got wiggle room in your toes. And I prefer on top of that to have a little bit of slop. When you take a step, you want a little bit of slop in there. And what you're doing here, you do not want to constrict your feet so tight, whether it's your sock system or your boot system, that you're compressing the veins on the top of your foot and you're limiting the blood flow to your feet. So boots that are too tight, socks that are too tight will keep your feet cold. Boots that do not breathe, will not let out the moisture, will eventually make your feet really cold. And boots, obviously, with not enough insulation, will keep your feet cold. So with that said, we'll take a quick look at the construction and what they did on the design on this and how these were designed to keep your feet warm. So start with the inside here. That's the liner. I'll go right to the bottom of these. These come, if you can get them all complete. I got lucky. You've got two pretty thick felt insoles here. So this is your extra insulation underneath you. Two thick felt insoles. They're going to go underneath your footwear, or underneath in the bottom of the boot. And then they've got this kind of this duffel liner. This isn't a super thick wool liner, but this type of liner is very breathable, and I do like them. They're a little thinner. but they dry real fast. So that's one of the advantages of this. So that's their thinking, is you need that double layer of wool underneath your foot, and then basically your sock system, whether it's 1 or 2 pairs of socks and this wool liner on top of that. So something to be said about sock systems too. It's the same idea. I am normally a 13, and for me to get 3 pairs of socks is out of the question. 2 if I do a medium weight wool sock and add a heavyweight wool sock, I can get 2 pairs of socks into footwear like this. You just want to make sure that your socks aren't so tight that you're restricting circulation. So this is the standard boot here, and I've used this with great success below 0 temps, 40 below, no problem. They are fantastic. Using them for long periods of time, your feet just stay toasty warm and dry, and this is a great thing for cold weather. I use these a lot during hunting season if I'm even sitting still. It's just that extra insulation just really works well. So if you could find these boots at a surplus store, I would jump right on it. I got these on eBay, and one of the things to look for, and it's hard to tell if you're shopping online, but a lot of times on the older ones, this rubber that's on these boots will end up kind of weather checked and cracked. I bought 1 pair, I think they were $50 on eBay, and I got them home, and the rubber looked fantastic, the canvas looked fantastic. I jumped online, ordered another pair from this guy, and so I've got 2 pairs of these things. I did rip 1 pair. The canvas came apart. This is after a couple years worth of daily use, and I had them patched. But other than that, they seem to be tough boots. And for extreme cold weather, for deep cold, dry cold, these things are fantastic. Next, I'm going to show you guys a couple different liner options. I've got some Steiger Mukluk liners that I've used in these, and I've got a modification that I do to the heel. One of the things I don't like is this this heel that sticks out. I'm not sure what the military was using that for, but for snowshoeing and for even walking around, if you don't have these boots on tight, which I prefer to have them a little loose for airflow, that heel sometimes gets in the way. You feel like you're going to roll your foot, and it kind of just doesn't feel that great. So I've got a modification I do with trimming that heel down, which works fantastic, and I like the boots that much better without a heel on them. So stay tuned, I'll show you that. So liner options, if you can get these boots with this wool kind of duffel liner, that's fantastic. Another thing that I do, these boots are kind of a general size. I don't even know, this is extra large. I don't remember what size they were for, but I think this is like a 12 to 14, maybe a 12 to a 15. So let's say if you're on the a size 12 and you're going to wear these, you're going to want to make sure to build up some extra insulation, whether it's your socks or liners, just to make sure they take up that extra space so they're snug. If you're a size 15, you might have to take out one of these insoles. One of the things I definitely recommend is these mesh air mesh insoles that I sell. And on a boot like this, you could put this mesh insole directly underneath this duffel liner, or you could also just slide it right inside of this duffel liner to where your sock is coming into contact with this. These air mesh insoles are fantastic. If you've got room for these in your boots, I highly recommend them. They cannot absorb moisture because it's a screening material, and it just gives you that extra airflow and drying ability in your boots. So this is a fantastic add-on to this type of boot system. So here's the pair that I've used more often. I modified the heel on these. On this pair here, I added Steiger Mukluk liners. See if you can see this here. They're about these were a size 15 from some Mukluks. I think these liners you can jump on Steiger's site, and they're about 20 bucks, somewhere there, $20, $25. They are definitely thicker liners than the white duffel liner that comes with these boots. The nice thing about this is they've got some rigidity to them, so they kind of give your boot some structure. They're not as flexible. So this is nice for my daily pair. I want to slide them off and on. This works great. I think I've still got the wool, 2 layers of wool underneath here. Yeah, so in these boots, I've got the Steiger liner, the 2 layers of wool underneath here, and I can still fit 1 to 2 pairs of thick socks in here, and I'm a size 13. So that's a good option. Yeah, so if you run across these boots without the duffel liners, go ahead and get yourself the Steiger insulated liner here, this wool liner. The downside on these heavier felted wool liners is when they do get wet, they are a little harder to dry out. For camping, a lot of times I'll take the liners and I'll stick them in the bottom of my sleeping bag when I'm sleeping, and that seems to dry them out just fine. Those white duffel liners that come with the boots do dry out faster, which is nice. So here's another modification. If you're having trouble with these things being too tight and not having enough room for your sock system, like on top of your foot, you're getting too much compression on top of your foot, I've got a liner that I modified to buy you a little extra space. This here is a Steiger liner that I modified. If you guys can see how I cut this thing into the toe here, basically I kept the toe box because your toes are what you're worried about getting cold, and cut out some with a sharp knife, cut out a channel opening for the top of your foot. This way you don't get much compression on top of your foot right here at all, which is going to aid it in extra blood flow and extra movement in your foot to get that airflow in there. So this is a worthwhile modification on any type of boot system that you just don't have the room. They're a little too tight for you. This is worth playing around with this idea. So next modification I did was the heel modification. You can see this one here has the full heel in it, if you guys can see that, and this one here does not. This one has been trimmed down and it's quite a bit shorter, if you guys can see that from the side. This made all the world of difference. This is a far more comfortable boot now, especially for snowshoeing and walking in the woods. It's just far more stable. So to trim that down, I probably took a good 1/4 inch or so off that heel. So to trim down these boots, I used one of these all-purpose multi-function oscillating tools. This is really designed for doing like plunge cuts into drywall or wood or something like that. And I just took that blade and worked it into the side of that heel, pushed it in at a certain distance and cut, and ended up cutting that rubber right off there. And then I actually went through with this tool and kind of plunge cut a little bit and just cut a few grooves in there so you could get a little bit of traction on your heel. And you can see, I'll give you guys a close-up of that. You can see how I cut those grooves in there with that tool. Worked fantastic. As soon as I start using the other pair of boots, I'm gonna trim them down too and do that. So overall though, a lot of military gear is a fantastic find for outdoor use. These boots are worth their weight in gold for keeping your feet warm in bitter cold temperatures. So hope this gives you guys a good view of these things and gives you guys some options on liners and modifications, that type of thing. Thanks for watching.